Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all. I am nursing a celery juice this morning. We had a kid's birthday party over the weekend and they're all dropping like flies. There's some sort of cold going around the school. So I am flushing my system today. If any of you have any suggestions for other ways you prefer to flush your system, let me know. Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Sonia. So I saw that we have a question already from Sonia in here. If anyone else has a burning question, good morning, Linda, that you had that brought you here this morning, go ahead and submit it. I think I'd like to start this morning by bringing them in first and just hearing what they have to say, and then we'll go through questions again, kind of like last time, if that's okay with you guys. I feel like I could use a dose of the chorus. Just being in there like, it's all good. Yeah. Yep. Sounds good. Sonia says, okay, great. So I think sometimes it's just nice to be, I don't know, in there, it's okayness. So, all right, I'll bring them through and then we'll get going. Good morning, beloved ones. How much we delight in being with you today as in any other day. No matter what state you find yourselves in, no matter what position, no matter what your bodies are up to this day, we delight in everything that you are and create. There is much happening right now. It is the reason why so many of you are able to perceive so many of us. We are not the only beings having these sorts of conversations with members of your civilization, of your group, however you would like to define it. And that is because many of you are expanding. And as such, your ability to perceive more than what is classically on your five senses wavelengths is also becoming more possible. As such, you are perceiving many things throughout your day. Many things that are new and are typically not what the belief system has been built to handle. It is a shift, you could say. It is a shift in how your beliefs are integrating or encountering these new stimuli. As such, your bodies may express this transition in a variety of ways. One of the ways that may be expressed is what you might classically call illness. That is, something that the body is doing that is not typically what you consider to be correct. In so doing, you limit the perspective of what otherwise might be coming through. And you would say to us, but chorus, how else could we consider a stuffy nose? What else could it possibly be besides illness, besides a nose not doing what it is meant to do? Beloved ones, that depends on how you define a nose. It depends on how you define what it is that it is supposed to be doing and what it might be doing differently in the future. You see, you are a whole system. Your beliefs and your bodies are a unified field of perception. Therefore, is it just about the nose, or is it about everything you have been feeling, suspecting, learning? Is it not also about all the other systems of your body and what they are doing? If you look at the whole picture, what you might find is that your body may be acclimating to a new way of interacting with energy in your five senses environment. If you pause and look at a particular moment in time and say, well, in this second of time, my nose was running. Therefore, my nose must have something wrong with it. You would not be incorrect from a five senses belief system perspective that has a narrow definition of what a nose can and should do. We will not invalidate this perspective of illness, for it is real. You all have created it, have existed in it, have experienced it. But there is another perspective that says your entire unified field of perception is moving through a transition by way of the rules of the game, which say that you express change in the body, typically by things not going according to plan. Were you to follow that road a little bit further, you might find that on the other side is a renewed strength, vaster capabilities, greater endurance, more stamina, not just for things in the five senses environment, but for the energetic aspects of yourself that are starting to be expressed through all frequencies on which you resonate, including the five senses frequencies. We will pause here, as that was quite a lot of energy, and you may be sensing this in parts of yourself already. You see, it can be a gentle process. It can be an unfolding. And so there is no rush. There is no ticking clock. This is unfolding beautifully. Much as nature blossoms in her own time, so are you. So, what questions do you have for us today? So it's Katie. And I'll just say, when there's a laugh in the middle of what they're talking about, that's me. I mean, they do laugh, but I mean, sometimes I feel the humor so much of what they're saying, like I can't help it. Same with tears. I'll sometimes tear up while they're talking. So I will bring through Sonia's question to start. I'll read it out loud here. Okay. I would love to hear from the chorus about their perspective of source. By source, I mean the source of the infinite energy that we are. What is the nature of their relationship to source? Do they communicate with source? Do they view their purpose relative to a relationship with source? I hope this is not too charged for a topic. Do not mean to wrangle any kind of endorsement for a certain perspective. I am just deeply curious about the perspective from their vantage point. Great. Okay. All right. And Sonia, do you want to come up on stage and interact with them, or just have them roll with it based on your written question? What would you prefer? Fine either way. Okay. Why don't we start with just they'll answer it, whatever is most useful. Well, in that case, I think you should interact with them. So if you're okay with it, okay. Sonia says okay. All right. So then I'm going to bring you up on stage. Whoops. How do I do that? Sorry. I'll get more smooth at this over time. Great. Okay, so Sonia's coming up on stage. Says it's connecting. Hi.
Hi, Katie.
It's so good to see you. Great. Okay, so I'll bring them through. They've heard your question. That might make you say it again. We'll see. Turn you up a little bit so I can hear you. Okay. So is it perhaps that you are wondering about the beginning and the ending of all things? Where does it start? Where does it go? How does it connect? What's up? What's down? Where do these things begin and end, and where do we all fit? Yes? Is this so? Or do you have other aspects of your question that you are hoping to understand?
I mean, maybe that's in there somewhere. I'm also just curious about the communication aspects, like how Katie started communicating with you and how you've talked about other communications with other beings going on as we're expanding. And in my experience and my upbringing, I've experienced different types of communication, and I guess I had a sense that it was source or some ambassador for source, or like I don't even know. So I'm just curious, in your, infinite being, like do you get a sense that there's a source of things? Are you aware that there's a source, and do you communicate with that source? Is that a sense of joy or curiosity for you? Or I'm just curious about communication and my own personal desire for more and deeper communication, I guess, in terms of like not seeking truth with a capital T, although that's important for me personally, but more along the lines of like bigger truth than what I've experienced on what you've called the five senses. So I would enjoy deeper communication with larger perspectives. And I think I've just asked two questions, but
You have actually asked several. For there are questions you have asked with your words. And then there are also longings that humanity expresses energetically. This is often what is perceived by those of us who are on vaster frequencies. Yes, we hear your words, but to us, your words are actually a reflection of what you are expressing already energetically, if this makes some sense.
Yes.
So you could say that you are already communicating on vaster frequencies, but you are going through a process of becoming conscious of that.
Yes.
So you see, as you continue to communicate with beings like us, what you will find is that you become more aware of the questions that you are asking as you communicate with them by way of the perspective that they reflect to you of what they see in your energy. It is a partnership in all things in the universe. By our perspective, we all assist each other in seeing more of what we are. As we have often said, creation would be incomplete without you. Your perspective is required for creation to be the wholeness that it is. Therefore, every time you and you all express your perspectives, you are contributing to the completion of creation. This is why we often prefer that a human ask their questions out loud, because it is an experience of expressing your perspective, no matter which other vast or infinite perspective you are communicating with, you see. Though we hold a different perspective in the universe, ours is by no virtue better than yours or any other being's. And so we find that this is an important aspect of humanity's awakening, is coming to an understanding of all that you are and all that you represent, your unique perspective, even among your kind. This has been very much thwarted by your beliefs of limitation, as was your desire. Now you have come to a point, you could say, in your process of awakening, where you are very much aware that there is much more out there, you could say. And thus, desires are coming to consciousness of wanting to connect with them again. Now, often for a human, this quickly translates into a how. But how can I do that thing that I want? How did it work for others? How has it worked in the past? How is it working for us? How is it working for other civilizations? Where are the hows that I may know my how? You see? Okay. So, from a five senses perspective, this was a very valid way of approaching a new desire because you were constrained to essentially reuse what you had already created into the creation of the next thing that you wanted. Looking for examples of how others have done it before leverages the belief systems that already exist and actually makes it more possible for you to do from within the game, because you're not starting from scratch, so to speak. You're leveraging what others have done too, and by way of that, you access those beliefs that say that thing is possible. It's been done before. What you are reaching into now is something that's a little bit different. These energetic parts of yourself are expanded, you could say, beyond the limitations of the game or through it, however you like to look at it. And therefore, though you are still abiding in some ways by the rules of the game, you will also be able to do things in a more instantaneous fashion. There will not be as much required in your linear timeline of things that have come before in order for you to be able to do it. It is actually a reaching beyond the how into a more direct connection to source. So you see, your question is already reflecting your perspective from within the game as an expanding human that is awakening, that is sensing more of this possibility, and is now bringing it to consciousness. So, one phrase that we have heard humans say is about being present or showing up. There is actually a great power in this concept because it suggests a construct. It suggests a framework that you believe in, that something could happen in a moment that does not require anything else to have come before on the timeline in order to make that so. It is akin to your concept of miracle. Miracle, by our definition, being a low to no probability outcome based on the summation of five senses beliefs. It's what is possible here based on what you believe. Thus, you see, your definition of possibilities is expanding by way of your softening beliefs about time. You believe that something could happen in a moment that you did not have to prepare for. You just had to show up. You just had to be present. And somehow those things might manifest. This is a very powerful concept on your path of awakening, because that is, in fact, a representation of a more direct connection to source. You are not blocked or clouded by ideas of all the things that you have to do in order to get that connection from source. Now, here we are speaking specifically about manifestations, which humans tend to focus upon, but you are always connected to source. It is, by our view, also the infinite energy of the universe. Now, there are some who believe that that energy is neutral. There are some who believe that that energy is positive. It is up to you. Remember, your perspective is a required part of creation. And we will all understand source more by way of what you each come to express about what you believe about Source yourself. And in so doing, by connecting more deeply to what you believe and what your perspective is, ultimately, you are connecting more to the source of all that you are and all that we are.
Beautifully said.
Do you have any more questions for us?
Probably, but my mind is pretty quiet right now. So maybe next time. Thank you.
Well observed. Feel this feeling, yes? In the beginning, to a human, it feels a little bit like absence of mind. From another equally valid vantage point, this sensation that you are having right now is a harmony between mind and your energetic self, where they are at peace with each other, where mind is not overly dominating and preventing you from seeing all of this stuff because that's what you had created the experience of. And so it is a rebalancing of these parts of yourself, and there is a sense of ease in this moment, for you are allowing yourself the perception of your own connections. And it comes and goes in awakening, and that is okay. It'll be back. We often tell our bridge builder this as she becomes upset when she loses the feeling. Yes? And then says, where did it go? And then we say, but you always end up back here, don't you? Yes, that is awakening. You are doing it perfectly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonia. Jane says, I feel it too, right? I mean, that's it. That's the magic. Sonia says, I mean, that's what we come here for, right? I walk in nursing celery juice and being like, I don't know what's about to happen in my life. My nose is running, right? It's not now. It's amazing how quick it is. How much a connection to that perspective. It's so different. And I think it's because it's an energetic connection that we're making and we feel it. Don't we? I mean, maybe I'm the one bringing them through, but honestly, I view that as a technicality. I mean, it really is, right? If you're here, you're able to somehow perceive them, sense them, feel them, right? So we're all doing it. Yeah, Jane says it's so easy and so difficult to just let go. Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's the oscillation, right? Between sort of these two perspectives as we're awakening, that we're stitching closer and closer together. I don't know about you, but years ago, man, this just took forever to get to this peaceful place. And now, in a matter of minutes, I feel it again, either by way of them or by way of something else or a beautiful sunset. Like, I don't know if you're feeling it, but these 2 points are closer together. And this is one way to view it. I mean, there's many directions you can use to describe awakening, but they're coming closer and closer together as our oscillation is speeding up, until there are times that I have where I feel that balance that they just expressed to us or that we just sensed, right? You feel like I have an awareness of thinking, but it's not all I'm doing. I have an awareness of energy, but I'm also grounded. I'm here somehow. So, yeah, Jane says, yes, I can drop in much easier than I used to. Yes, Absolutely. And I think that grows, that continues until, you get to a point where you're just able to choose, really choose. I think right now I'm still working on it at times. I'm still like, I feel this way and I have to work a little bit to get into that other place. And I think really what's happening is the choice feels super easy. Like I could choose to drop in. I could choose to feel that other place. There's not as much earning, there's not as much working that's required, not as much doing, as they said in Sonia's conversation, right? There's not so much how. How do I drop in again? How did that meditation work last week? I can't even remember. So, yeah, this is awesome. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions? And I should say for me too, I don't know that I've ever specified that, but I'm happy to answer questions too or bring them through. I was thinking this morning, I know a lot of people are starting to perceive stuff and communicate with beings as well by my viewing, by my observation, based on what I remember of my own path. And I think sometimes it's good to talk to someone who's doing it too or has done it, or because it validates it in our reality. It builds more beliefs. Like they started by saying to Sonia, that is a valid way of doing it. We used to look around and see who else has done something similar to this. It was a way of leveraging those beliefs in our belief systems, and it works. So, they're both valid. So I think the more we share with each other the bizarre experiences that we're having, they start being less bizarre because they're more mainstream. There's more beliefs in the belief system about people who have expressed things that they're experiencing. Sonia says, how can I hear, I have to move this a little bit. How can I hear and channel in a way that can give us more confidence? Great question. I'll give you my answer first and then we'll bring through the chorus. Oh, okay. All right. Jane just said she has to drop off, but she has questions. Jane, feel free to post those in the Facebook group if you feel you want an answer before next week. Otherwise, let's talk about that next week. Awesome. Cool. Okay. So Sonia, I would say hear and channel in a way that can give us more confidence. So as a human, meaning you sound so smart. Thanks. I put on my smart pants today. I think, speaking as someone who went through this myself, the thing that actually gave me more confidence, and this may sound counterintuitive at first, but then I think you'll totally resonate with it. The thing that gave me more confidence was my growing ability to suspend my own beliefs. So the more I could go forward with them without judging it, I actually was able to develop a series of experiences that started to grow my confidence about my own perspective about what I was experiencing. So there's something interesting that happens with judgments. And this is a fascinating part of what we built. That judgments will actually sometimes hinder you from developing your own perspective. The judgments often come in a way that's unconscious to us. That is quickly framing a situation or pattern recognition or things like that. We know this from psychology and other neurological studies we've done and things like that. We know that the brain is very quick to sort of lock it down. And what that is actually doing is creating an artificial construct of the experience that we all agreed to, which is limitation, by way of what the chorus is saying. Meaning it's difficult for us to see a situation any other way because these beliefs just sort of dictate for us it's just this and nothing else, which was part of our goal in constructing the experience of limitation. So, what happens as you start to awaken is that these more and different perspectives start to come through that feel plausible. Like, okay, maybe it could be like that, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't have all the information. Maybe there's an aspect here that I haven't experienced yet, right? You hear these things today in our conversations. And really, what that is doing is it's representing a softening of the instantaneous sort of structuring of the belief systems. We're starting to allow ourselves to see things, same situation, in multiple ways. Like, yeah, I can see how I was upset about that, but I can also see how they were. So, as you are able to suspend your own beliefs in these experiences, what you are actually doing is allowing more of your own perspective to come through to you. So, from a five senses perspective, you could say more of the stuff to come through to you, which is true. More of the experience, more of the conversation, more of the weirdness, however you want to define it. From an energetic perspective, really what's happening is you are expanding in your ability to perceive more and different versions of energy, of the universe, of etc. And in so doing, you are expanding your perspective. And that is, in a way, confidence. An expanded perspective energetically could be viewed as confidence. It is a comfort with a variety of different situations viewed a variety of different ways. Think about it. When we feel confident and we walk into a room and we're feeling like, yeah, I'm confident to be here, really what's happening is there is a comfort with whatever might happen next, meaning there's a comfort with a multiplicity of options. Confidence in our reality, people often develop by going through a lot of five senses manifestations, a lot of life experience, we say. That is a proxy for the belief that you are invincible or strong or resilient in the face of any options. Now, you can do that by way of gathering life experience, totally valid path. You can also do that by way of energetic expansion, in which you are more at ease with more and different perspectives. Ultimately, it's the same kind of expansion, it's the same kind of comfort. It's the same kind of confidence. One is sort of based in our five senses reality, and another is based in maybe a larger circle. But ultimately, they represent the same sensation that we have within us. So, as you go forward in your experiences of channeling or of talking to other beings or what have you, you will notice a judgment start to creep up, sometimes very quickly, depending on where it's sitting outside our fence line, depending how much fear there is. And it'll be like, this isn't safe. This is weird. You're going crazy. You're nuts. No one will believe you. Okay. That's the one that's like, you've seen enough. You can't go any further. And so, really, I developed my confidence by way of developing a harmony or an allowance for those beliefs. In the beginning, I pushed them away and I would be like, no, I shouldn't feel afraid. I'm going to do it anyway. You just fling yourself off the cliff and you can do that. It's a little painful, speaking from experience. Or you can allow them, which is what the chorus often talks about, right? So you can say, I see you, fear. I get that. This is scary. This is weird. It's new. It's really new. Okay. I'll stop today. And as you develop sort of this muscle for sort of keeping a tab and allowing of those beliefs, they quiet, they soften. And you can go for like a little bit longer, maybe than you could last time, and a little bit longer. And there's just like this letting go of the judgments and more of just soaking up that infinite is possible. And then before you know it, you've sort of done both processes. you've expanded and allowed yourself to experience new and different perspectives, or new and different versions of your own perspective, however you want to say it. And you've also started to gather all sorts of experiences in our reality where it turned out okay. I'm still here. I'm still here. I used to say to myself a lot, like, well, I'm still here. So is it possible that voices are coming through that I am experiencing as my own inner voice? So then is it my voice or that of another? Great question. So this is one of the beliefs that will pop up quite quickly, which is sort of like a demand for an origin point, like a demand to know, wait a second, who's talking? Is it me or is it them? Is it me or is it them? Right? It almost comes up like sometimes in an alarmed way, like, wait, I can't go any further until I figure this out. Like, what's happening? At least it was for me. Okay. So is it possible that our voice is coming through that you are experiencing as your own inner voice? I will say yes and no. So if I were going to give it a ratio, it's like maybe 10 to 1. There are a lot of other beings out there, like a lot, just zillions, zillions and zillions, and like more than we have ways to describe. We limited so much in our perspective here. And so as we expand, there's a lot that we're coming into contact with. And a lot that, I mean, I don't even know how to name yet. There's just not enough words sometimes to describe the number of beings I've come into contact with. When we start to perceive that, that's oftentimes when our judgments will fly up and be like, you're making this up. It can't be another being. It can't be more of this. Like, it must just be something in my subconscious. So, can it be your inner voice? Yes, it can. But I would say that I have become more and more and more clear on what my inner voice is, the more I have allowed myself to encounter all of these other beings. And so the belief that told me, wait, stop, you got to figure this out before you go forward, was actually a belief that was preventing me from understanding what my inner voice is, which is what we built the belief systems to do, to deny us the sense of our own selves and the understanding of where we are in the universe, what energies we're experiencing, what are the energies of other beings. There are differences. There's a difference between me, the energy I'm resonant on, and the energy of other beings and the energies they're resonant on. And in the beginning, it's crazy nuanced. It's so subtle to us coming from this perspective that it's easy to just lump it all and say, it's just something in my subconscious. When actually there's a lot of information out there that would help us then to understand, oh, I see, this is what I'm resonant on versus this is me and my unique expression of that energy. And then the same true for all the many, many other beings. And, I will say too, humanity is a major fascination for a lot of beings. And we can't even really fathom what we constructed. We're starting to, but what we built here was pretty incredible. And so there's a lot attentive. There's a lot of beings attentive to what we're doing here and very excited for the opportunity to reconnect with us. So if you feel like you're hearing a lot of voices, you might be. And it's okay to ask them to organize themselves, as I have done. It's okay to be like, you guys are overwhelming me, or I need one of you to identify yourselves first, or I'd like to pick a name for you. Names help me. That is the rebalancing of your expression to theirs. And we would say, I'm just a human, like they're infinite and they're expanded. Our perspective is just as valid as theirs. And so if you have a sense within you, as a 5 senses human, sure, that says like, okay, this is freaking me out, there's too much, say it. Like, be okay with that fear part, and more of your perspective will come through and your confidence will grow instantaneously. Sonny says, thank you. Thank you. I love talking about this stuff. I mean, honestly, it's validating for me. I mean, it's been a long road. So solo in my closet. So, coming out and talking to you all about this is beneficial for me too. I appreciate these conversations just as much, truly. Sonia says it would be easier for me to present some of my thoughts by blaming them on a voice in my head. Yes. It's a quick dismissal. Most of the times that we are quickly dismissing our perspective, it comes across like that, like the absurdity, which we talk about in season 1, that sense of absurdity. This is absurd. Ugh, I'm making this up. Ooh, man, is that a reflection on the cusp of something super expansive? And then our beliefs say that's absurd. That's ridiculous. And we do it with ourselves, and we also do it with others. So someone will be like, I had this experience and, this, that, and the other happened. And even if we don't say it out loud, right, we might feel within us like, no, I think that person's making it up, right? It's a dismissal. Now, who knows what they are, what they aren't? The point is they could have a perspective that would expand our own, that would help us to see more of our absurd moments. And so regardless of the 5 senses details, right? Energetically in the belief system, what's happening is we're like, that's crazy. I almost saw more of my own crazy and validated it. Woo! Don't validate the crazy. We might totally release ourselves from all of these limitations. It's kind of what it's doing. Well said. Thank you. All right. Well, you guys have any other questions for today? And at some point, I'll share these beyond, or, share these beyond the Facebook group. For the most part, right now, we're promoting them in the Facebook group. We're not yet on social media. I don't know. It's kind of growing in its own way, organically. We're all blossoming organically, aren't we? Great. Well, thank you, everyone, for being here. Sonia, thank you for all your awesome questions and being willing to come up on stage. We all appreciate it very much. And we will see you guys next week. All right. Thank you. Bye.